Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is Ghost War 38, and today I wanted to give you a little bit of a showcase of my Louis L'Amour book collection. I also, of course, have the two audiobooks like you see in front of you, and I have at my feet, I got these from one of the members on the Louis L'Amour Facebook group. I have several of the hardcover leatherette um, editions of some of his work. So I'll show those after I'm done here. But starting off with the ones that you see before you, I picked these up from a mixture of my local half-price books and Barnes & Noble. I am currently listening to the one here on my left, How the West Was Won. Reading the back of the case reminded me a bit of the mini-series Centennial, and that's what got my interest. And another one here was just the idea behind Utah Blaine. Looking at this one on the right first. This one says, Colonel Utah Blaine, held captive by the Army of the Revolution, broke out of jail and headed north from Mexico with nothing but the clothes on his back. Then he found new trouble struggling at the end of a noose, and stepped in just in time to save the life of a Texas rancher. The would-be executioners were in reality the rancher's own men, looking to steal his land. Now Utah has a unique proposition. Have the wealthy Texan play dead. He then introduces himself as the spread's new foreman, and then single-handedly takes care of the outlaws one by one. The wage to fight another man's war, $100 a month plus expenses. The cost of falling in love while he earns the wage. It wasn't exactly part of his agreement, but he will soon find out, unless the bad guys get him first. And so that's Utah Blaine. And then How the West Was Won. They came by river and wagon train, braving the endless distances of the Great Plains and the icy patches of the Sierra Nevada. There were men like Linus Rawlings, a restless survivor of Indian country who headed east to see the ocean but left his heart and his home in the west. There were women like Lilith Prescott, a smart-spirited beauty who fled her family and fell for a gambling man in the midst of the frontier gold boom. These pioneering men and women sowed the seeds of a nation with their courage and with their blood. Here is the story of how their paths would meet amid the epic struggle against fierce enemies and nature's cruelty to win for all time the rich and the untamed West. The movie came first, and then I believe, I could be wrong, but then after that, Louis L'Amour wrote a novelization of that film's screenplay, and that's how we got his book. If I find out something else, I will put and edit that in the description of this video. So that's How the West Was Won. And then I have my two hardcovers up here. West of Dodge, this is a collection of short stories. Found this at my local half-price books. And then here's another one I'm reading currently. This is To Tame a Land. And then starting from the pile here on the right, going from the top here, is Riley's Luck. And I read that because I enjoyed reading Fallon and listening to the audiobook. He's about another gambler, looking up here at the top. Val Durant was only 4 years old. On the snowy night, his mother abandoned him, but instead of meeting a lonely death, he met Will Riley, a gentleman, a gambler, and a worldly self-taught scholar. For 10 years, they each were all the family the other had, traveling from dusty American boomtowns to the cities of Europe, until the day Riley's luck ran out in a roar of gunfire. But it wasn't a gambling brawl or a pack of thieves that sealed Will's fate. It was a far more complex story that Val would soon uncover, one that touched upon Val's nearly forgotten childhood, the woman who was Riley's lost love, and the violent future of a growing country. And I was very intrigued by the premise of this book, and that's why I picked it up. It's as simple as that. And then, continuing the pile from here, this is the Mountain Valley War. This is the second book in the Kilkenny series. So I can't really talk about much of that one yet. Kilkenny, which is book 3. Fallon, which I've read already. It's about a gambler who takes a bunch of settlers into a old abandoned mining town, passes the town off as something new. The town flourishes and builds around them. Meanwhile, he was basically scanning and conning all of them and thinking this would go belly up. He attempts to get out of town, but instead he ends up falling in love with a woman and ends up becoming the town's savior. And that's basically the story kind of in a small nutshell. There's a bit more to it, but I won't go into that for avoiding spoilers. But needless to say, Fallon was one of my favorites. And then Fair Blows the Wind. This is the first in the Chantry and Talon series. Some of this crosses over with some of the Sackett characters and vice versa. I've heard a lot of good things about this series as well as the Sackett books. His father killed by the British and home-burned, young Tatton Chantry left Ireland to make his fortune and regain the land that was rightfully his. Schooled along the way in the use of arms, he arrives in London a wiser and more dangerous man. He invests in trading ventures, but on a voyage to the New World, his party is attacked by Indians and is marooned in the wilderness of the California coast, where I'm assuming he crosses paths with the title character in the first Sackett novel, because he, according from reading the back of the book, also ends up on the California coast. It is in this darkest time when everything seems lost that Chantry encounters a remarkable opportunity. All of his dreams are within reach: wealth, family land, and the heart of a Peruvian beauty. But first he must survive Indians, pirates, and a rogue swordsman who has vowed to see him dead. If that doesn't sound like a gripping read, then I don't know what to tell you folks. This is the Daybreakers. Part of this one is from the influence from the Sackett's miniseries on DVD, which I've seen a little bit of. I'm also working on watching that. This is about Tyrell and Orrin Sackett. So that's the Daybreakers. And then after that one, the first one here is a collection of short stories. There are 7 volumes of this series. It ranges from Frontier Stories, which is the first 2 volumes, to latter half featuring crime stories in the more, not so much modern day, but like 1920s, 1910s crime dramas. Well, that's that one. A couple of these stories in here are The Lonesome Gods, which I found had its own standalone book. Lonesome Gods, page 98. No. Nope, I was thinking of something else. Comstock Lodge. The one for the Mojave Kid, War Party. Yeah. I was curious about that, so I picked that up. They had several copies of Volume 1 and a couple copies of the other volumes. But that's that pile here. And then looking at the pile here on this side, starting from the top, this is The Walking Drum. It's another historical-ish book. Pause it here if you guys want to read the back of that, if you can read it. And then To the Far Blue Mountains, which is book 2 in the Sackett series. Some of the elements here pick up from where the first book leads off. It deals with a bunch of collection of gold coins of being found by one of the Sacketts, and then basically his descendant picks up where his dad left off. I heard about this book. I picked this up. Someone told me that this was a really good read and a great find, and apparently someone commented to me that they are currently on the 10th rereading of this book. Now, I'll be honest, if you can read a book 10 times and still enjoy it every time, then clearly something is worth reading on here. And I look forward to seeing just exactly what that is. So this is Shalako. Probably mispronouncing the title name, but I'm going off of the best I can say. This is the Shadow Riders. I'm more familiar with this because of the movie adaptation with Selleck and Elliott. The book's kind of in a little bit of a messed up state, but that's how I ended up buying it. This is about Dal and MacTaven, who are on both sides of the Civil War. And then after that is the first volume in the Sackett series, Sackett's Land. After discovering 6 Roman coins buried in the mud of the Devil's Dyke, Barnabas Sackett enthusiastically invests in goods that he will offer to trade in America. But he has a powerful enemy, Rupert Jeanster. I'm probably mispronouncing that name, but I'm going off of the best I can say it. Nephew of an earl, wants him dead. A battlefield promise made to Sackett's father threatens his inheritance. So on the eve of his departure for America, Sackett is attacked, thrown into a hold of a pirate ship under that man's orders for Sackett to disappear into the waters of the Atlantic, but managing to escape, Sackett makes his way to the California coast. Does he meet and interact with Chantry? We will find out. He sees in a raw, abundant land the promise of a bright future, but before that dream can be realized, he must first return to England and discover the secret of his father's legacy and exactly what promise that was made. So again, that's Sackett's Land. After that is a Hopalong Cassidy novel. It was made of 3 books. I have the first one here. This is The Rustlers of West Fork. It's about Cassidy, for those of you that like the character. So there's that one. And then the last one is the book 1 of the Kilkenny series, The Rider of Lost Creek. The second one is the Mountain Valley War, and then Kilkenny is the first one, or Kilkenny is book number 3. So that's my paperbacks here. So hold tight, and I will get the others. And we are back, folks. We are getting started here now, me showing you guys the hardcover editions that I got in the mail. Going from the top here, we have Sackett. It's one of the later novels in the Sackett series, so I'm not going to read that right away until I've read the preceding titles. And then after that, we have The Broken Gun, The Proving Trail, Milo Talon. It's one of the later books in the Chantry and then Talon series. And then there's another one here, Under the Sweetwater Rim, The Iron Marshal, and The Man Called Noon. The ones here on the left are Kilo, The Walking Drum, which is what I showed you guys earlier as my paperback, and Over on the Dry Side. And after that, folks, here's the next set. This is Sackett's Land, which is book 1 of the Sackett series. I showed you guys that one earlier. Silver Canyon, and then Flint, which is one I found at my local library. I'm currently finishing up chapter 1 on there and reading chapter 2. Yondaring, The Daybreakers, and Jubal Sackett. I want to say that's book 4 in the Sackett series. I'll have to go back and look at that. There's a little timesheet in the paperback of Sackett's Land that tells when the books take place there. I want to say these are not too, Daybreakers and Jubal Sackett are not too far from each other. So hang tight. I'll grab the next set. So taking these off here. I don't get much time to read as much as I used to when I was younger. I only have time to really read on the weekends, and I have a back catalog, so some of these I probably won't be able to get around to for a while, because the only free time I have is on the weekends. And then the top here we have is Passing Through, The Empty Land, The Californios, Beaudry's Law, which is the second book in the Beaudry series, the first one being titled just Beaudry. Kilkenny, which I showed you guys, is the paperback from the book 3 in the Kilkenny series, and Heller with a Gun. And then the last pile, which is almost done here, Troubleshooter, which is the third Hopalong Cassidy novel, Kiowa Trail, The Tall Stranger, Dark Canyon, and north to the rails. And with that, folks, we come to the end of my Louis L'Amour video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little look-see. And if you have a favorite Louis L'Amour book, comment that below. And until then, I will see you guys next time with another video. So take care, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, and evening, and farewell.